Hey guys, Karan Binani from Mobi Scrub here, and we'll be reviewing the Asus Zenfone Max Pro. The Zenfone Max Pro is selling its 32 gigs and 3 gigs RAM model for Rs 11,000, whereas the higher model is being sold for 13,000 rupees. And I have to say that Asus has done a pretty phenomenal job of taking out these budget smartphones that look quite good for their price and offer some really kick-ass features like the dual camera, fingerprint sensor, 4K video recording, and much more. First of all, it's called Max Pro, probably because of two reasons. One, the battery is a massive 5000 mAh battery, which is just super amazing. And it lets you expand storage by 2 terabytes. That's 2000 gigs of space, which is crazy. The heavy-duty battery also makes the phone's weight at 180 grams and thickness at 8.5 millimeter, which can be considered mildly thick in today's day and age. At first, you might find it bulky, but trust me, for a large display device like this and housing a 5000 mAh battery, this phone is actually surprisingly light for something like that. And I'd like to really commend Asus for being able to do that. Part of it could be because of the aluminum and plastic pack, which makes things lighter, yet it doesn't feel bad quality or cheap. It's actually quite nice. It's got a 6-inch display, so obviously it's a bit too big for convenient one-handed use. Though it's not impossible, but you will definitely feel it's a little wide. But again, that's fine because that's a trade-off you make for a massive display which immerses you in content. It's a unibody design, and your all-in-one tray is on the right edge that lets you add 2 SIM cards and a microSD card that can expand storage by 2000 GB, which is insane. It's great, but I'm not really sure if I'll need so much space in the next 2 to 3 or to 4 years. At the bottom, you have a headphone jack, speaker grill, and a microUSB 2.0 port, which is also enabled for USB on the go. You can connect your pen drive or a mouse to this port using an adapter. At the back, you have a dual camera setup, which is great to see in this price range. It's a combination of an f2.2 13 megapixel camera and an f2.45 megapixel camera with LED flash. Unbelievably, the camera records at 4K resolution at 30 fps and Full HD videos at both 30 and 60 fps. Below the camera is the fingerprint sensor, which works fairly well. It's not as fast as the OnePlus fingerprint scanner, but I don't think any phone is as fast. But it still works pretty well and never gave me a problem. In the front, the Max Pro has an 8 megapixel camera with LED flash, so rest assured you get bright selfies even in absolute dark conditions, and we'll talk more about the camera later. The device is running Android 8.1.0 Oreo, which is amazing because even flagships from brands like Samsung don't come with the latest Android version like the Galaxy S9. So that's quite nice, and here you have the Zen UI layered on top of Android. Now you can see that it's got Android 8.1.0. The app drawer has a couple of pre-installed apps, but thankfully all seem mostly essential and none of them are really bloatware worthy except maybe GoToPay. You get Facebook, Instagram, and Google Docs, Sheets, Slides all pre-installed. The Antutu Benchmark and the Resplash apps, those two have been added by me, and of course you get the entire suite of Google apps along with some relevant tools from Asus like Calculator, the sound recorder, and the FM radio. The display of the Max Pro is a massive 6-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 1080 by 2160 pixels, which is quite a sharp screen at this price point. While it may not be saturated and vivid as the Super AMOLED displays in Samsung phones like the J6, but it's still quite colorful and bright, and you can see that for yourself as I'm showing a couple of images here. Really nice, bright, it's colorful and quite natural as well. The device does come with an LED notification, so just something I thought you guys should know. Now, coming to the performance of the Zenfone Max Pro, the 1.8 GHz Octa Core Snapdragon 636 processor, along with the 3 gigs of RAM, does a pretty decent job to ensure that you sail through the day without any hangups. It's not going to be super fast as you might see in the flagship's device. You can expect pretty decent performance. Apps will launch fairly quickly, but they obviously won't be lightning fast. Launching games might take some time, but again, for a budget smartphone, I think Zenfone has come a long way. Playing some of the really high definition games like Chameleon Run here, you can see that the game is smoother than any other budget smartphone that I've ever played on, and thanks to Adreno 509 GPU. I remember playing this game on the Galaxy J6, which is more expensive by the way, it wasn't as smooth. And finally, let's talk about the camera quality and the software. So you have a couple of camera modes on the top left corner, and tapping gives you a couple of modes like the HDR, portrait, landscape, sports, you've got backlight, candlelight, snow, night, and a couple of them. So you could be shifting between those. Now, there's a filter button, but that only works on front camera for some reason, and I'm not sure why that's the case. There is a beauty mode that works on faces, and since this is a dual camera setup, you also get depth effect, which lets you take photos with dramatic blur in the background. At the bottom, you get the shutter key as well as a toggle between camera and video. When in camera mode, your settings will show all picture related settings, and you could, just quickly go through them over here to see what all options you've got. Now, toggling to the video mode will change the settings context and allow you to alter video settings. And I'm pleasantly surprised to see that this phone offers options for recording video in 4K quality, which is really awesome. Now, here are a couple of pictures that I took for samples. Bunch of, pictures taken in the daytime, evening, inside, and I think it does a pretty decent job for a budget smartphone, and those are the depth effect samples. Lastly, I would just like to touch on the battery and charging here. The Max Pro has a chunky 5000 mAh battery capacity, which is just amazing because undoubtedly it will easily last you the entire day without the need for plugging it or charging it even once. But it comes with a 10-watt charger, and you can pretty much spend more than 2 to 2.5 hours easily to charge this device from a 0 to 100. Just a caveat. Overall, I think the Asus Zenfone Max Pro is an extremely good smartphone to consider in the 10 to 12K range of smartphones. The dual camera setup with 4K video recording, Snapdragon Octa Core processor with impressive graphics performance, fingerprint scanning, face unlock, 6-inch immersive and high-resolution Sharp display, Android 8.1.0 Oreo, and a massive 5000 mAh battery at an unbeatable price point. I'm not sure that I could recommend you any other device in this price range. Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe.